Hello, class. Reading Birch Bark House was really difficult for me. I found it really challenging. I was not into this book at the beginning. By the end, about the time everybody gets smallpox, it was kind of when I started really focusing and getting into it. I did struggle reading it. I did learn from it, and I didn't realize a lot of the things that had to go on for them just to live, and how they made it through starving winters and stuff like that. So that was nice. The book introduces a new language and culture, at least new to me, maybe not to everybody, but I thought there were great descriptions of how the Ojibwa lived, that it really did a good job explaining cause and effect, and if they didn't work hard all the time, basically they suffered for it in the end, or in the winter, or without being able to get enough trade to make it through and sustain. There were really positive aspects to the book, even though there were some super sad moments, like where the baby Niwu dies and they almost starve, and just some really tough times for them. The positive things, again, are showing how cause and effect, how working hard pays off, and just how things when you're growing up necessarily seem unfair, but then it works out to where it was obviously for your benefit. The new experiences were positive, so I didn't know a lot about, how much had to be put into survival. I've been spoiled with a heater and electricity all my life. So, I never really thought of some of the things, making your shoes, making your clothes, making your food every single night for dinner, hunting for your food, gathering, storing stuff for winter. It's just never been something I've had to do, so I never really considered it. But, this story shows the other side of Western expansion. So where we hear about kind of the good things, where there was progress being made and cities being built and schools and all these things, and I didn't necessarily learn so much about how it affected the things around. So obviously I see now nature's affected, the earth is affected, everything, like I said, has an effect, and I definitely believe that. But it was interesting to learn about the Native American side of things, and super sad that smallpox killed so many people, and I am just gonna end there because it makes me really sad. So for my original post 2, I read 9 Days to Christmas. I liked this book because it taught about posadas and what they were and what they kind of meant and the process of getting through them. I didn't know about that. I like that Cece wanted a star. I love stars, so that kind of made it fun for me. But for her, or for the reader, I suppose, it kind of showed the religious aspect and how deep her roots was the reasoning behind her choosing a piñata rather than an elephant or one of the other animals that were there. So I found that pretty interesting. And then piñatas we use to celebrate birthday parties or whatever, but we've never used them in a Christmas celebration or anything like that. And so it was really interesting to read about the parade and all the energy and hard work that goes into all of that. I just realized that I didn't answer the 2 questions for the first post, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so one of the questions I'm going to answer about Birch Bark House is only a few people on the island have the right to dream names, but the name givers were unable to dream a name for baby Niwu. Why do you suppose that is the case? I would say that is the case because maybe they knew, or the spirits knew, that he wasn't going to make it. He was going to be a learning experience, and he was going to be joining them soon. So he didn't need to have a name. That's really the only thing I can think of, is they were able to know ahead of time that he wasn't going to make it long enough to be named. The next part of that is I did wonder why Angeline didn't have a Native American name. The only thing I can think of is maybe she was also adopted or saved or fostered or whatever you want to call it by the family as well, and they were known to, you know, take people in and feed them and give them a nice warm place to sleep, and maybe they were also known to care for babies that didn't have a place to go. So that's the only thing I can kind of think of there. My name was picked by both parents. My mom chose my first name, Kimberly. She liked it, and I don't think there's any reason. My dad, and my middle name is Joe, and so my dad chose that. He always wanted a boy. That's the only reason I can assume that they wanted to name me that. They did always, my family calls me Kimmy Joe, so that kind of goes together, and I don't know, maybe it was just the thing they wanted to do. The process of naming children in our family is different because we basically just choose names. They don't necessarily have to have a meaning. A lot of times our names do have a meaning, but they don't. Like when we were naming our daughter, my husband and I really struggled because we knew a lot of people that we didn't necessarily care for, and we didn't want our daughter named after them. So that was really a struggle for us. I wanted a cute girly name, and he wanted to name her after wrestling moves or like Rocky. And no offense, like Rocky's a cool name, but I just wanted my girl to have a cute girly name. So we ended up with Gracie as her first name, and her second name ended up being Cooper, which is a wrestling move. And depending on where she is what name she goes by. So always in sports, she's Cooper. A lot of time, I tried to incorporate family names into naming our daughter, but it didn't really work out with everything. That, like, it's a long story how my daughter became Cooper, but basically my husband was calling her Cooper in the womb from like day one, and she started reacting to it by the time she was big enough to kind of react and do that in my stomach. So I was like, now we have to name her Cooper. She already knows. Anyways, so one of the other things, I think I will read you. I like the 4 largest divisions of the book are summer, fall, winter, and spring. I think that the way it was organized was actually the way they lived and the way they like did things. The Native Americans had to start, you know, every summer preparing for, you know, every summer, fall preparing for the next season, because they didn't always know how they were going to get their next meal, and they knew that come winter time it was going to be too cold to go out. The animals aren't going to be out like they were before. So I think this was a logical way to organize the book in the way life cycles actually happen. So I don't know, that's my assumption. I hope you guys all have a great week, and happy Thanksgiving.